Welcome to Aunty K's, your favorite radical queer indigenous auntie, bringing you tarot every day. Hello everyone, and welcome to Aunty K's Tarot. So today I am doing my installment of my top tarot trumps. I am combining into sets of 2 to 3, and so in this video we're going to cover 3, the Empress, 4, the Emperor, and 5, the Pope or Hierophant. And having these 3 together works really well for me because my views on these 3 cards are very similar. I see these 3 cards from a very political standpoint. The role that Empress and Emperors and Popes play in lives globally can't be denied. And how we recreate those roles on micro ways within our own communities, within relationships, so on and so forth. So that is to say, I don't have the most positive view of these 3 cards. Even if I am reading this person as a wife or mother or husband or father, or a teacher, I'm not reading the most positive views of those things. Like, if you show up as a Pope teacher to me, as instead of, like, say, the King of Swords or the Queen of Swords, then you know you're probably not showing up as a good teacher. Or and if you show up as you know, the partner or parent represented by one of these 2, like, I'm not just reading somebody who has, like, you know, hyper normalized values. I'm reading, like, trad wife bullshit, right? Like, and I'm reading, like, super chauvinistic. These are the things that I'm reading into these things. And, you know, as somebody who is adopted into a right-wing evangelical hellhole, these cards were very difficult for me to reconcile initially. And then I so enjoyed Mashca's video on the Hierophant because she talks about having the same difficulty with the Pope Hierophant. And then that being her life path card. Well, my life path card is the Emperor. Yeah. So and I can be like, oh, it's about, you know, my Aries stellium all I want, but I ended up reconciling this of, like, yeah, my life path has been coming to take the Emperor down my whole life. Of course, it's my life path card. So that's how I reconciled it. I'm coming for this son of a bitch. And the truth is, you cannot just pull down one member of this trio and expect things to change. You have to pull down all 3 members. And I'm not saying that to say all religion is evil. I'm very spiritual. But you turn religion into something very specific when religion and politics are this tight in bed. And that, you know, the emperors and empresses are God appointed via the Pope. Like, that's part of the thing. And so, like, the Roman Catholic Church, it was really a creation of the Roman Empire and Constantine. And when Rome falls, the church is like, our wealth is going to disappear without a giant empire to prop us up. And so they, you know, begged in all their churchy outposts to the north to, like, you know, get your medieval backwards asses together and try and build an empires for us. And that took a while. But oh man, when that lice-ridden continent figured it out, didn't the three of them become a force to be reckoned with? I don't give the Empress a pass. An Empress can rule without an, like, emperor. Like, if there's an Empress, and nobody is emperor, but if there's an emperor, there will be an Empress by his side. He kind of needs her for the breeding purposes that empires require. Or that the God-appointed hereditary empires require, anyway. Although you'll notice that even in elected empires, there's definitely ruling families, and many of them believe that their riches are God-appointed. So, yeah, prosperity doctrine stuff, right? So, I appreciate this trio of Empress, Emperor, and Hierophant for its politics, its art, and its humor. Oh my gosh, do these three cards have so much to say. It is lovely. And, of course, the Holy Roman Empress is a perfect reminder to us to not give that bitch a pass. This is probably my favorite trio, and I just really enjoy it, and it really hits home how inseparable they all are, especially here in the Pope card. Okay, so I have another full trio where all three came for an appearance. And that is, so the other one was Tarot Neo-Colonial de la Americas. This one is the Aztec Tarot, coming in to remind us that this trio is dangerous no matter where you put them. When they come together in a conglomerate, they are a dangerous trio. This deck is super RWS, just done in Aztec art, and I really enjoy it. And so I read it the same way. And so I read those same things. And I think this deck is really brilliant in how it puts the RWS images into Aztec art. I think it does a brilliant job over and over again. And I'm really pleased with it. I'm sort of afraid this series is going to just become my top tarot decks via the Trumps in slow order, with occasional guest appearances from others. But anyhow, I really enjoyed this. So while this is the only 2 set of 3s, the Emperor and Empress cards made a few more duos for me. They did. So, we have the Empress and Emperor from my Marseille Prendre Vie. And because of my feels on the Empress and the Emperor, I recreated the images. Now, when in this deck, I did make my Empress brown. And part of my thinking in this is, so white femininity is second place in capitalism, right? And it makes concessions and is harmed by the white patriarchy. But in those concessions, it gets to wholeness second place. And in this way, the Empress card reminds me that when we are marginalized, in whichever ways we are marginalized, to be aware of making those concessions to the Emperor. Because those concessions are always about stepping up in our marginalizations to a place above others with our marginalizations. They don't bring all of us into second place, just those who make those concessions. White femininity does not put all feminine identifying persons in second place. Only those who have made those concessions. So that's what I did here. I maintained the important aspects of a Marseille deck. With the Emperor card, I noted that the Emperor's helmet is very much shaped like a toque. So I drew a toque for his helmet and dressed him like a hipster. And his scepter is, with its cross shape, in this case, is a land survey equipment with a cross beam. Because that's what the cross surveys. It looks out over the land, surveying it for what it will own and dominate. And I purposely did a knockoff of West Coast design on their shields to symbolize that theft that colonial empires and colonizing empires participate in. And I also like this pair because they are seated in almost exactly the same place, reminding us that they are a pair. My Pope was not one of my favorite cards from my deck. Actually, it was my least favorite card. So, not a trio in this case, but I've heard folks wonder if the Empress's necklace is a photo. It's not. I drew it. Only the backgrounds are photos, but I am also super impressed folks didn't realize it was a drawing. Thanks. I also love my Charlatan card, taking the place of the Pope and the Hierophant in my Landback Tarot and Oracles of Colonization, where the Charlatan is that pseudo-religious micro-elite indigenous figure that colonial governments, not all of them, U.S. I don't think has an official place like this, position like this. Canada, so-called Canada does. I think either Australia or New Zealand does. Anyway, so we have the Assembly of First Nations, which originally was an Indigenous group of chiefs who decided they would band together to lobby against the Canadian government on issues. They begin in the when Canada finally allowed Indigenous people to participate in courts as someone other than a defendant, and in the political system. That didn't occur until the late 50s. So then they start this. But then the government's like, this, we should support this initiative, and we'll pay for this lobby group to come lobby us. And so then it was no longer a lobby group. It's now called the Assembly of First Nations. They're paid for by the federal government. And essentially they are a reverse lobby group where whenever the government is doing something bad to Indigenous people, the head of the Assembly of First Nations, which Canada calls the Grand Chief, which is a non-existent position in Indigenous cultures on this continent. There's no such thing as a chief of all Indigenous nations. That'd be like a chief of Africa or a chief of Europe. It doesn't exist. So this fake Grand Chief gets paraded out whenever Canada's doing something to Indigenous people. And then all the settlers in Canada feel like they don't have to feel guilty about the thing they're doing because the Grand Chief is on board. And the other function of the Assembly of First Nations is to go to Indigenous communities and try to convince them to be on board with the things that the government is doing. So that's my other favorite one. So I enjoy when, they're fun. So the other pair I like is from the Clarity Tarot. There's something about them that feels like more archetypal than actual people. And so this is when I am actually able to see other qualities in these. I do feel like I feel Aries and Venus, negative, positive balances within these two cards. And so I like that as well on occasion. And I like that for that. The Empress from Fortune Queens Tarot. This validates everything I was saying before, especially everything I was saying here. Because, RuPaul, for all their marginalizations, has opted to be a racist settler colonizer who, owns and rapes Indigenous land for extraction and makes millions off it. And that's makes her one of the most racist colonizers to me. So she validates my feelings that the Empress is also a bad guy. Some emperors I like. Okay. An emperor I like. And that more positive archetypal way, which is pretty much how the Great Lakes Tarot reads. I love the willow tree, and I really read this card as the willow tree. and that's how I see this card. And I do really, I have done work readings for it, but like test driving it, but realistically I use this deck for myself, and it's more archetypal. And I like when my Pope can just be fun and cheeky as well. You know, in a different way than this one. Actually, and sometimes it's in a different way. So I am not as mad at the Pope when the Pope is a cat. And I am enjoying the cheekiness of the Gay Marseille now that it has arrived. And I can enjoy some cheekiness of Pope Joan, although me and Pope Joan probably wouldn't have been friends because, you know, what she wanted to do with her life? Be a pope. I don't think we would have been friends. But this is maybe just somebody cosplaying Pope Joan because this is Drag Time Story Hour. So I can get that. That gets more Sunday school teacher vibes for me, but in like a good community way maybe. So preschool teacher, I don't know. I am just reading and test driving this week and enjoying the cheekiness of this deck. And those are my top tarot trumps for 3, the Empress, 4, the Emperor, and 5, the Pope / Hierophant / Charlatan. See you later, folks.